we have to talk about police failed in this instance, but this is a story that smells and feels like Trayvon Martin all over again. All right. Let me share my screen. This is SInzae Reed. SInzae Reed was a 13-year-old boy in Ohio that was gunned down by one of his neighbors, a 36-year-old white man. SInzae was unarmed, and he was just out playing. He was no threat. And a 36-year-old white man killed him. The issue not only is that he was killed, but his shooter is still roaming the streets and free. And to add insult to injury, his shooter is one of his neighbors and still living near the family. This happened back in October. And the killer is still loose. The murderer is still loose. So we got to talk about it because a lot of people don't know about this story, and this should be national news. So I'm going to go back to this article because this article actually gives some great detail. But I'm going to go to this other article first. And the name of the shooter is Craig Butler. So let me share my screen really quick and go over this story to get a little bit more detail about the murder of SInzae Reed. Okay. Okay. His family, friends of 13-year-old SInzae Reed calling for justice. This is out of Columbus, Ohio. Family and friends of 13-year-old SInzae Reed, who was shot dead back in October at the Wedgwood Apartments, held a New Year's Day community service conference. We demand real, tangible answers and actions. This family deserves more. This community deserves more. The time is not now. The time is now. I'm sorry, the time is not now. The time was yesterday. It's been 3 months. According to police, Reed was found shot at the Hilltop Apartments complex on October 12th and was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly afterwards. 36-year-old Craig Butler was arrested days after the shooting. Days after the shooting. Police said witness saw Butler exit a truck, fire shots at Reed, and then drove off. Officials had not confirmed whether Butler and Reed knew each other or what led to the gunfire. Reed's mother, Megan Reed, says she remembered every moment of October 12th, the day she lost her son. So I saw my baby's lifeless body covered in blood and lying on the ground, cold ground. I wasn't even able to hold him and let him know mommy was there. I was never supposed to be planning a funeral for my 13-year-old baby. Losing SInzae is the far worst pain I have ever felt in my life. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I'm truly heartbroken. She says, I wish I could hear SInzae call me mom again. I wish I could see him, smell him, and hold him again. But over everything, I wish I could tell him I love him. On New Year's Day, calls for justice for SInzae continued as the community and families held its first news conference. SInzae mattered. SInzae had a support system. SInzae had a community. Just Cbus Ramon Obey said, 13 years old. This was just a child. He should have been able to live and grow up. This is a kid who just hit middle school. And that's a photo of the shooter that killed 13-year-old SInzae. Police said during the interview and investigation, Butler alleged that he acted in self-defense. The prosecutor's office dismissed the charges. It says municipal court does not have jurisdiction or hear felony cases except for a limited period of time. It is standard practice for almost every felony case filed in municipal court to be dismissed. Not every case initiated in municipal court is presented to the grand jury. If the case is submitted to our office for review, we review the investigation to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to proceed and whether it is appropriate to pursue the case. The only time limitation is the statute of limitations, which is several years. This particular case is still under review for possible presentation to the grand jury, and unfortunately, I cannot advise you when this case will be presented to the grand jury. On October 12th, 2022, the Columbus Division of Police responded to 832 Wedgwood Drive on a shooting where officers found 13-year-old SInzae Reed suffering from gunshot wounds. Officers rendered aid until Mr. Reed was transported to an area hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Columbus police detectives interviewed numerous witnesses and filed murder charges on Craig Butler on October 13, 2022. Mr. Butler was ultimately arrested and slated in the Franklin County Jail. During the homicide review of the investigation, there was an allegation made by Mr. Butler that he acted in self-defense. The Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, learning upon this information, dismissed the charges against Mr. Butler, pending the completion of the investigation. The Columbus Division of Police does not dismiss charges. We continue to investigate the circumstances of Mr. Reed's death with the help of outside entities and are still awaiting key forensic and ballistic evidence. Once the investigation is complete, we will submit the packet to Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, who will determine whether to present to the grand jury. Says we are aware of community's concerns regarding the investigation and want to ensure the community blah, 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 yakety schmackety. So that's what happened. He was let go. He was released because he said, I fear for my life and I was acting in self-defense. Self-defense against a 13-year-old boy? "13-year-old boy. You're a 36-year-old man and a 13-year-old boy that's completely unarmed is a threat to your life?" "13-year-old boy. 13. A 13-year-old boy is a threat to your life? An unarmed 13-year-old boy? I'm going to keep asking that question. What about you? Is a 13-year-old boy a threat to your life? An unarmed 13-year-old boy? when you're brandishing a gun? Are they? Yeah, I pointed. I saw that too, Jonas. They're calling this boy Mister. Yeah, this is a baby. This is a baby, right? Let's go. His mother is SInzae Reed, 13-year-old killed.
Joining us now is SInzae Reed's mother, Megan
Okay, hang on. That's
Reed, and community activist Dewan Sharp. Thank you both so much for your time and joining us tonight. Megan, just want to start off by saying our deepest condolences go out to you for the loss of your son, which I cannot imagine the pain that you continue to feel. It's been nearly 3 months since your son was killed. Just take us back to October 12th, if you will. What was your son doing that day? How did you learn about what happened?
That day he woke up, he told me that he wasn't feeling good. He went back in his room. I was cooking, so I went in the kitchen. I didn't even know he went outside that day. Like less than 10 minutes later, the neighbors came banging on the door saying that SInzae got shot. And they took SInzae to the hospital. And they told me that he was shot in the chest, which I only thought at that time he was shot in the chest. They told me that they was trying to get his heart to restart for 20 minutes. And then they came back and got me, my mom, my 2 sisters. We went in there. As soon as we went in there, they called time of death. And that was at 6:26.
Dewan, Columbus police are investigating, but they say that they are still waiting for key ballistic evidence nearly 3 months later. Why do you think that it's taken this long?
I really don't know. Like, I know I received a paper from the coroner saying that it does take like 2 more months. But as far as I know right now, that my son got shot 4 times that I know of. Once in his chest, once in his right hand. His right hand's with his right with, and 2 times on the side. So even if Craig is trying to play self-defense, he shot my son in his right hand for sure. So that means my son had his hands up. So he should still be in jail to this day, but he's not. He's walking around a free man.
Dewan, question for you. There are some people on social media who are making a parallel between SInzae's death and the death of Ahmaud Arbery. That's taking, in that scenario, it took months for arrest to be made. Do you think that that's a fair comparison?
I do believe it's a fair comparison, but we can't really do comparison right now. We're just focused on the law right now. Craig Butler, he was the one that was not allowed to have firearms. Craig Butler was the one that opened fire in the school zone that almost hit multiple people. Craig Butler was the one that fled the scene. Craig Butler was the one that had to get apprehended by SWAT. And it had changed off of his self-defense. When we have people in the community, from us just coming out here talking to people, we found witnesses that seen it, that said since they didn't have a gun, that Craig had a gun. And the police is investigating, but they're really investigating us, because after we had our rally, SWAT team hit their neighbor just looking for a gun that they did not find. There had never been a gun. And we don't understand why SInzae is being tried, and he didn't do anything wrong. He was just 13, but a convicted criminal with the illegal firearm firing. When we do have new gun laws here in Ohio, we're supposed to have enhancers. Craig should have just seen 10 years alone just for having the gun.
And so just to confirm.
Did y'all hear that? Hang on, let me go back for a second.
With the illegal firearm firing, when we do have new gun laws here in Ohio, we're supposed to have enhancers. Craig should have just seen 10 years alone just for having the gun.
He has a domestic violence record. And he had a gun. And he's not supposed to have a gun. and they could have gotten just on gun possession alone.
And so just to confirm, no one has ever said that SInzae had a gun, correct?
No one has said he had a gun. We got the original police report from which they released to the media when that happened. No gun. The city used SInzae's name and likeness when they thought it was black on black crime, but when they found out it was Craig that killed him, it was been complete silence. We haven't heard from anyone from any type of policy. I'm just a community activist. I came over here to make sure that she was okay from her losing her son.
Megan, Craig Butler, as we've just been discussing, is currently a free man. From your perspective as a mother, how difficult is it to know that the man who's accused of allegedly killing your son, that he's walking free, living still in the community?
I'm very frustrated because I know if it was the other way around, if Craig was a black man and my child was white, that black man would be in jail and my son would have justice. Or if SInzae would have killed Craig, my 13-year-old son would still be in jail. And the fact that he's just walking around living his life, want to go see his 10 kids.
In the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah, he lived, yeah.
Right. We can look out the window and see their home.
Yeah.
If police and authorities in Columbus are watching our report tonight, Megan, what is your message to the police?
I need justice for my son. My son is no longer here. I'm going to continue to talk, and I will be his voice until he gets justice.
We have demands for that.
Mm-hmm.
First off, we would like the immediate arrest of Craig Butler. That's it, like for real. And number two is Gary Tyack in his office. We would like them replaced because they're not doing their job. The third is a apology from the city for us having to come out here and do this when it's their duty and their elected official capacity to do these things for us. And the final one is the DOJ to come into Columbus, Ohio to investigate the patterns of practice of the Columbus Police Department and our judiciary.
Well, what have police said to you? How are they defending that they have not arrested him at this point?
Silence.
Yeah. I haven't even talked to the detective on the case since October 23rd when he called and interrogated me, asking me why do I allow my child, well, SInzae, to carry a gun. Like, first of all, why would I allow my 13-year-old son to carry a gun? Like, that doesn't make sense. And why you interrogate me? My son is the victim. I don't know what happened that day. I wasn't over there.
Megan, we did not have the opportunity to ever meet your son. Talk to us about what SInzae was like, what made him smile, what he loved to do.
SInzae just turned 13, 2 months before this happened. He was a normal boy. Like, he had friends, he went outside to play. He did a normal boy stuff. And for them to like try to make him out to seem like he's in some kind of gang banger in a gang, stealing people's cars, doing all this other nonsense because he's black. That's what it comes out to, because he's black. It makes me mad, like really mad. Because if my son was white, once again, I wouldn't be in a situation right now. Matter of fact, if my son was white, Craig probably would have never killed him.
Megan and Dewan, we thank you so.
Pat says, hey, the guy was in his truck and stopped. Butler could have fled the threat by staying in his truck. Exactly. Let's go to this article really quick. Oh, boy. This is out of the Columbus Dispatch. Make sure this is large enough. It says family asks why charges dropped against Columbus man accused of killing a 13-year-old. This is some of the points. It says Craig A. Butler, Sr., 36, in Franklin County Municipal Court in connection with SInzae's death on the same day as the shooting. But a week later, prosecutors filed to dismiss the case on municipal court on October 19th. Franklin County Municipal Court Judge Mike McAllister accepted the motion and dismissed the case, meaning the $1 million bond Butler had been held on no longer applied, and Butler was released from jail. Columbus Police Homicide Detective Keith O'Connor said Thursday that there had been a claim of self-defense by Butler and his mother, but declined to comment further. So even Butler's mother was like, oh, he was claiming self-defense. Where was she? Why is his mama coming in and saying, oh, he was under self-defense? Like, what? But declined to comment further, citing an ongoing police investigation. Why is a 36-year-old man needing his mama to also come in and claim self-defense? Butler, the shooter, was previously convicted in Franklin County for misdemeanor domestic violence, according to court records, which under federal law will prohibit him from having a gun. Nicholas and a handful of other people demonstrated Thursday afternoon on the steps of outside Franklin Municipal Court seeking justice for SInzae and the prosecution of Butler. Says prosecutors could still bring the shooting case before a grand jury for indictment in Franklin County Common Pleas Court, which handles felony cases like murder. Says according to Nichols, SInzae was shot 4 or 5 times, including in his right hand and back. An autopsy report from the Franklin County Coroner's Office is not complete yet. So if he was shot in the back, that means he was running. He was running away. And if he's running away, that means he's not a threat.